It's a Tuesday, you're driving home, half listening to the radio. A song comes on, nothing tragic, just a piece of music with one beautiful chord change in the chorus. And suddenly your eyes are wet at a stoplight, and you're not even sure why. You wipe your face, you laugh at yourself, you don't tell anyone about it later, but it has happened to you 100 times before and it will keep happening, and you have never quite known what to call it. If you're someone who cries at music that isn't sad, at the end of animated movies that aren't tragic, at strangers being kind to other strangers in viral videos, at a perfect catch in a sport you don't even follow, at a sunset that hits you wrong on a regular evening, your psychology is doing something very specific. And it's not what you've been told it is. The people who do this most are not weak, not unstable, not too emotional. They are running a sensory system that catches things most people walk past every single day. Here's the thing nobody talks about. Most people have what psychologists would call a relatively tight emotional aperture. They save tears for designated sad moments, the ones culture tells them tears are for. Funerals, breakups, bad news, a movie that everyone agrees is supposed to be devastating. The aperture opens, the tears come out, and then the aperture closes until the next clearly labelled sad event arrives. But some people don't have that aperture. Or rather, theirs is wider, more porous, more responsive to a much larger range of inputs. A child reuniting with a parent at an airport, a stranger paying for someone else's groceries, a piece of music with a key change that hits at exactly the right moment. The third act of an animated movie. None of these are sad. All of them open something that the world expects to stay closed during a regular day. And that response, which feels like a glitch from the inside, is actually one of the most fascinating documented patterns in modern psychology. In the early 2000s, social psychologist Jonathan Haidt published research on what he called moral elevation. He found that humans have a distinct emotional response to witnessing acts of moral beauty, things like generosity, courage, kindness, sacrifice. This response includes a warm sensation in the chest, a sense of expansion, sometimes tears. Haidt argued that moral elevation is a separate emotion from sadness and from happiness, with its own neurological signature. We cry at strangers being good to strangers because our nervous system is registering something the rest of the room is missing. Anthropologist Alan Page Fisk expanded this work with a concept called karma mutta, a Sanskrit phrase meaning moved by love. Fisk's cross-cultural research found that nearly every human society has a name for the experience of being suddenly overwhelmed by witnessing communal connection, and that the bodily response, including tears and chills, is consistent across cultures. You weren't malfunctioning in the grocery aisle. You were having one of the most universal human experiences there is, just on a hair trigger. Picture this. You're at a wedding for someone you barely know, a friend of a friend, a cousin's co-worker, somebody you said yes to because the venue was nice. You're sitting near the back. The bride and her father walk down the aisle, and her father, this man you have never met in your life, looks at her with a specific kind of look, and you are gone. Tears, full ones, in the back row, for two people whose names you only learned 90 minutes ago. You glance at the people around you. Some of them are smiling. A couple are dabbing at their eyes politely. Nobody else is doing whatever it is you're doing. And you think, again, that something must be a little wrong with you, but nothing is wrong with you. You just saw something they didn't quite see. But here's where it gets interesting. The tears at music, or a sunset, or a beautifully timed chord change are not random. Researchers studying aesthetic chills, those goosebumps you get when a song hits exactly right, have found this response is tied to the same neural pathways that produce tears of awe. Your brain is registering a pattern of beauty that exceeds its expectation of the moment. The tear is a side effect of your nervous system saying, "This is more than I prepared for." Most people's nervous systems don't say that. Yours does, often, but there's more going on than just aesthetic response. People who cry shows up in the rest of your life as a knack for steering conversations away from rupture. Your friends call you when they need to have a hard conversation. There's a reason for that. And here's the kicker. The hypervigilance you developed reading unpredictable people as a child didn't disappear when you grew up. It just got refined. You read micro-expressions like other people read text. You can tell when someone's distracted, when they're upset but pretending not to be, when their tone is off by half a degree. Most people miss these signals entirely. You catch them constantly. The apology is the surface layer. The deep layer is a perceptual ability that almost feels like a sixth sense. And this shows up in ways you might not even notice. People who apologize before they speak tend to take responsibility for their impact on others in a way most adults never quite manage. You think about whether your message landed. You replay conversations to check whether you said something hurtful. You apologize when you suspect you might have crossed a line, even when nobody's mentioned it. Researchers studying emotional accountability find this is one of the strongest predictors of long-term relationship health. There's also something the linguists noticed that most people miss. The apology isn't really an apology. It's a doorway. It tells the listener, I'm about to ask something of you, and I'm giving you a moment to prepare. People who hear it consistently from you have, without realizing it, come to feel safer in conversation with you. Not because you're weak, because you create more space than other people do. Now let's be honest, there is a real cost to the habit. People who apologize too often can be perceived as less confident, less authoritative, less worth taking seriously, even when their actual ideas are stronger than the people in the room speaking without preamble. The same trait that makes you safe to be around can also make you easier to overlook. That tension is real. But for the people who learn to keep the empathy and lose the unnecessary apology, here's what you actually have. You have a level of social attunement that most leadership coaches charge thousands of dollars to teach. You can read a room before you walk into it. You can make people feel heard with a single sentence. You can diffuse a tense meeting without anyone realizing you did it. You hold space for other people in a way that's almost invisible while it's happening and unforgettable once it's gone. The work isn't to stop being attuned. The work is to trust that your voice has a place in the room without an apology, buying it the right to be there. The attunement is the gift. The preemptive sorry was just the cost you didn't realize you were paying. There's something quietly beautiful about people who apologize before they speak, even when the habit is something they want to grow out of. They walk into rooms already considering the people who are in them. They have spent so much of their lives making other people feel comfortable that the comfort itself has become invisible to them, like air. They don't see what they're doing. The people around them just feel calmer when they're there. If you've ever wondered why friends keep telling you that you're a good listener, or why people open up to you faster than they open up to others, or why you always seem to be the one diffusing the tension at family dinners, this is why. You learned the language of careful entry into other people's space, and you have been speaking it fluently your whole life. You're not too soft. You're not too apologetic. You're someone whose nervous system learned to read the room before stepping into it. And that reading is one of the most underrated skills a person can carry into adulthood. If this resonated with you, please subscribe to Silent Awareness. It genuinely helps the channel grow, and it lets you know when the next deep dive on the quietly different ways your mind works is ready. There's a lot more about you that nobody's named yet. Hit subscribe and the bell so you don't miss what comes next.